I'm good. Let me wet my whistle and we'll get started here. All right. Awesome. Well, welcome to the Wednesday webinar with restaurant growth. Today, we have a really, really fun one. Dashboard of Domination. Take control of your restaurant's future. And of course, I always start off with a quote. My favorite quote: all business problems are nothing more than people problems. Those people problems are usually communication problems. Usually lack of communication, improper communication, or lack of clarity of expectations. When you start fixing this stuff like that, it all starts coming together. And of course, if this is your first time on the webinar with us, I want to give you just a couple ground rules. Number one, have some fun. Number two, take notes. Research has shown if you write stuff down in your own handwriting, you are 70% more likely to remember the information 30 days from now. And three, and this is the most important rule, take action. If you don't apply what you've learned, you really haven't learned anything. Knowledge is not power. I know a lot of these like gurus say it all the time. Knowledge is power. No, it's not. Application of knowledge is power. It's like people read my books all the time. I mean, my book, Your Restaurant Sucks, has sold probably 50,000 copies around the world. But restaurants still struggle. So reading a book is not going to help you. You have to take what you read in the book, actually apply it to your restaurant. Okay. And every once in a while, during the presentation, you'll hear me say, hashtag WTSD. What does hashtag WTSD mean? It means write this shit down. That's the golden nuggets. That's the things I really want you to remember and take away. If we've never met before, it's your first time on the webinar with us, I am Donald Burns. I am the restaurant coach. I am a recovering restaurant owner, former restaurant owner. I'm also a consultant. I've consulted with big, huge, multi-billion-dollar food service groups, Shamrock Foods, US Foods, Benny Keith, Cisco Foods, Performance Food Groups, you name it, I've consulted with them. I'm also a chef. I was a chef when I had my own restaurants. I was a chef with Wolfgang Puck. I'm also an author, probably most well-known for Your Restaurant Sucks trilogy, Savage Restaurant Success. I have a new book coming out pretty soon called Ingredients. I'm also a restaurant investor, and I'm also a former member of the U.S. Air Force pararescue team. Now, I grew up in the restaurant business. My father was a chef. I started at 15, washing dishes like a lot of people. Took a short break when I was 18 to be in the military, be in the Air Force and pararescue. But when I got out of the Air Force, and went to college in Miami, started working in restaurants again because I had experience from high school. And I realized I really, really loved the restaurant business. At 30, I opened my first restaurant, 1995. And I will tell you, I thought just having restaurant experience and knowing how to run a restaurant and being a good chef was all you need to be successful. I was so wrong. Running a restaurant is so different from having a profitable brand. And I did not understand it at the time. I always say like it was around probably like 6 months where I started getting the 2 a.m. anxiety, wake ups. You know, you wake up at 2 a.m. Oh no, payroll's due. Oh no, sales tax due. Oh no, I gave that vendor a big check. I hope we're busy this weekend, so all the checks clear on Monday. If you've been there, I've been there. It is not a fun existence. Now, I was like every restaurant owner in the world. I just figured I could outwork the problem. I just need to work harder. I can fix this by working harder. Hashtag write this down. There's some problems that you just can't outwork. Some problems you have to be a little bit smarter than what you think. That came in the sense of a very, very successful businessman sat me down one night and he offered me some help. And he was worried that I wasn't going to be open in 6 months. And of course, you know, like all restaurant owners, you just kind of play it off. Oh, no, we're just a little under the radar. You know, we're just haven't picked up steam. And he was very, very brutal. It's like, you know, Donald, the last thing you want to be as a restaurant is under the radar. I was like, oh my God, he's right. So he sat down and he said, hey, you know, if I gave you a three-digit lock, and I said, open the lock, could you open it? I said, no. He said, well, what if I gave you the combination? I said, that would be great. And he took out a napkin. The napkin's actually right behind me on the desk behind me in a shadow box. He wrote down 3 words on a bev napkin. I have it to this day. 29 years later, I still have this napkin. He wrote down 3 things. He wrote down people, product, process. And he said, Donald, this is the secret to restaurant success. So the problem is that you have the combination backwards. And I didn't realize it. People, product, process. Most restaurants start off with product because every restaurant has a menu. Then they start putting in some process place, some checklists, maybe a P&L, start getting a couple things in place. And then they go back to the people part. They start recruiting, a little bit of training, a little bit of interviewing. Remember, people feeds process, process feeds people. What does that mean? Every month, someone will call me and say, Donald, I'm frustrated. I'll say, why are you frustrated? I say, well, my team doesn't follow the checklist. I'll say, what's wrong with the checklist? They'll say, nothing. You gave me the checklist. I'll say, all right. If the process part is right, it's the people part. It's your mindset, your culture, hiring. You don't have the right people in the right spot. Every month I'll get someone to call me and say, hey, I'm frustrated. I'll say, why are you frustrated? When I went home this afternoon to go walk the dogs, I come back, these kids are on their phone. They're on TikTok. They're texting their buddies. They're on Instagram. They're not doing any deep cleaning or any side work. And I'll say, do they have processes in place? They have time process. 11 o'clock do this, 12 o'clock do this, 1 o'clock. No, but they should know what to do. They don't know what to do. People feeds process, process feeds people. And when people in process are solid, it protects your product. Someone's saying that people in process protect your brand. Now, over the years, I've taken that 3P framework, I've extracted it out, expanded it out to a step-by-step formula and roadmap for restaurant owners. We call it the Restaurant Accelerator. I'm not going to go deep into it. Basically, it follows the same program. It's people, product, process. We have a series of workshops, modules that go in there. Today's workshop that we're going to talk about actually is kind of extracted out of what we know as the Profit Clinic. Profit Clinic is where we talk about numbers, we talk about data, and we talk about make sure you have that high level of profitability. The average person in my coaching program right now has a 19.8% profit margin, which is really, really nice. Came down a little bit. I'm going to blame eggs for it. We were running around 20.1 for a long time. And then the last quarter, it's dropped down to 19.8, which is still better than the national average, which is only 5%. So hashtag write this down. If you want more money, you must know what's going on in your restaurant at all times. That's why we need what's known as the dashboard of domination, right? The dashboard of domination is all about taking control of your restaurant's future, all of the future. And here's the thing. Here is your dilemma as a restaurant owner, right? You have kind of like this, I'm going to say like you kind of have this kind of problem, and you might be, I call it kind of flying blind. Let me paint you a picture. It's 2:17 a.m. You're wide awake. Your mind's doing backflip. Again, payroll's due. Food costs is climbing like a rabid mountain goat. Sales are up, but somehow the bank account still feels kind of like dried up, like a dried up well. Here's the thing. You're not running a restaurant. You're surviving one. And the kicker is you have no idea why. No clear answers. You don't have a dashboard. You don't, no data. You're just guessing. Imagine it like this. You're flying a $500,000 jet through a thunderstorm with no instruments, no visibility. No idea if you're going to crash or if you're even headed in the right direction. Can you relate to this? Type in the chat, me, if you can relate to this. I just feel like every day I'm just kind of flying blind. Every day I'm just kind of guessing. Every day I'm hoping that we just get busy. Every day I'm hoping things turn around. If you understand what I'm talking about, just type in the chat, me. I understand this. Yeah, I can relate. All right. If you can't relate, say not me. My restaurant's doing great. I don't even know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm here, Donald. Okay. Let's be brutally honest. Most independent restaurant owners operate with intuition instead of intelligence. And while your gut has kept you alive for this long, here's the thing. It's not going to allow you ever to scale. It's not going to protect your margins. And sure as hell, not going to build what we call generational wealth. So why do so many restaurant owners, maybe even you, still rely on the same 3 broken tools? What are those 3 tools? Number 1, your POS reports, which gives you sales, not clarity. Your bank account balance, which lies to you daily, and your emotions, which are like weather in the desert, hot, extreme, and very, very unpredictable. Here's the harsh truth, and hashtag write this down. If you don't know your numbers, if you can't see your trends, if you aren't monitoring your metrics like a hawk watching its prey, You are not a restaurant owner. You are a hostage to your own business. And your captor, it's chaos. But here's the good news. You can escape. And you don't need a magic wand. You don't need a Harvard MBA. You don't need some other guru selling you some kind of hope with a PDF download. What you need is called a dashboard of domination. It is a centralized control system. It is, I call it like a digital war room. It's like being in a plane. It's the cockpit that gives you real-time insights to steer your business, spot threats, track victories, and also make aggressive moves to drive profit, power, and also peace of mind. Imagine waking up every day with absolute clarity on your food and labor cost. Imagine waking up every day with the daily sales goals aligned with your weekly and monthly budgets and targets. Imagine waking up with a scoreboard showing you on the team who's performing and who's poisoning your progress. Imagine waking up with forecasting that lets you prepare before the storm hits you. Imagine waking up with confidence in your numbers, in your team, and in your direction. I mean, can you feel that? That would be awesome, wouldn't it? But here's the thing, that is the future. But before we build that, we have to confront the uncomfortable. So let me ask you this. What metrics do you really track daily? Can you name your current food costs without checking your phone? Do you know which dish or which servers are draining your profits like a leaky gas tank? These are the questions that the most successful restaurant owners know all the time. What's your prime cost? Prime cost is food cost and labor cost. Can you tell me verbatim what your prime cost is right now? And I always know a restaurant owner doesn't know when they say these things. It's about. No, we don't use about in precise. My food cost is 58.7. All right. My prime cost is 58.7. My labor cost is 36. My food cost is 27.2. Not about. I think it's around. No. That's not what we do. And here's the thing I will ask you. If these questions I'm asking you make you kind of squirm a little bit, that's good, because that's a signal. Because here's the thing, this dashboard isn't just a tool, it is a test, it is a mirror, it is a weapon. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna crack open the real enemy called the fog of war, right? So you guys ready to see how deep this rabbit hole goes? Yeah, this is fun stuff. Again, it's not comfortable, it's not fun, but here's the thing, it is a necessity. And why is it a necessity? Because we need to understand what's going on inside our restaurant at all time. So let's talk about the fog of war. Why you're flying blind. Here's the thing, if you can't see it, you can't control it. Picture this, 1944, a bomber squadron's flying over hostile territory. I mean, cannons are firing from the ground. Enemy fighters are circling like sharks. Inside the cockpit, though, pilot checks his instruments, fuel gauge good, altitude steady, compass on course. My co-pilot focused and steady. Why? Because in war, the only way to survive is to see everything. All right. Now, replace that bomber with your restaurant. You're dodging rising costs, staff drama, competition, burnout. You're trying to survive a battlefield without any instruments. No labor control, no recipe costing, no daily sales targets, no visual trends, just hope, just hunches. You know, that's guessing your way through the fog. And guess what happens when pilots fly blind into a storm? They crash every single time. So here's the thing I want to bring to your attention. And this is, again, this call today is going to be a little uncomfortable for a lot of people, and that's good. I will tell you the truth, most experts won't tell you. Your P&L is a tombstone. It tells you what's already dead. You know, it's kind of like your P&L basically is like a post-mortem, not a prediction. By the time you read your monthly P&L, and I know 99% of restaurant owners get their P&L once a month from their accountant, usually 7 days after the first of the month. So like it's April, and you probably won't even have your March P&L yet. By the time you get your P&L, trust me, the damage has already been done. And here's the thing, that's not leadership. That's forensic accounting, right? You don't need a history lesson. You need a radar system. You need something that shows you what's happening right now. That's what a real dashboard does. It strips away the fog, exposes the truth. It reveals those patterns, those trends, those gaps that are just slowly just killing your profits. Like cancer, I mean, it starts small, but then it grows vicious when it's ignored. So let me ask you something brutally real. How often do you make decisions based on feelings instead of facts? How many gut calls, those little gut calls you make, how many of those have cost you money, time, or your sanity? When was the last time that you audited your menu for profitability? Are you reacting to chaos? Are you commanding from clarity? This fog, this uncertainty, this confusion, this chaos, here's the thing, it's not your fault, because you were never trained to think like a general. You were trained to cook. You were trained to serve. You were trained to bartend. You were trained to hustle. But let's be crystal clear on something. Hustle is the enemy of scale. Hustle works. I mean, hustle works great when you're a startup. But when you want peace, profit, and purpose, you need systems. You need structure. You need a visual command center that shows you on the battlefield and lets you dominate it. Because when you have that, oh, you become dangerous. You become precise. You become a professional. And here's the thing, the restaurant world will bend to your will, not the other way around. Now that you understand what the fog is, it's time to punch through it. I'm going to introduce you to a new identity that you must embrace if you ever want to lead with power, clarity, and dominance. So if you're ready to stop being a firefighter and start being commander, type in the chat, ready. Type in the chat, you're ready. If you're ready to like break free from being a firefighter and ready to actually be a commander. Type in the chat, ready. Anybody. Ready. Nobody's ready. All right, that's sad. Type in chat if you're ready. If you're ready, let's go. Let's hook this thing up. Let's go.
I just enabled everybody to chat in. I had forgot to do that. So
oh, you forgot to make the chat public. Oh, sorry, people. No, I'm sitting here thinking like,
now you
people
can
are
do
not
it.
participating. Luke, all right, that's
My bad.
That's user error on our end. I'm sorry. Everybody's ready.
I'm allowed one mistake per month.
That's it. That was Luke's. Actually, Luke's allowed one mistake a month. That was his one for April. So the rest of the month, no mistakes. We're good. Okay. Now we're all ready. Let's go. The rise of the dashboard general. Here's the thing. You're not a chef. You're not a bartender. You're not an owner. You are a commander. The world doesn't need another burned out chef. Doesn't the world need another burned out server or bartender? It doesn't need another overwhelmed operator buried in a pile of invoices, receipts, and apologies. What it needs is generals. It needs warriors. It needs leaders who command with clarity and take the hill every effing day. If you want peace in your restaurant, trust me, you better be ready for war. And here's the thing. A war is won in the command center, right? Not in the front lines. So let me introduce you to your new identity. From now on, if someone asks you what's your title at your restaurant, this is exactly what you'll say. I am a dashboard general. That's your new title, your new identity. This is the you that doesn't flinch at food cost report. This is the you that tracks labor like a hawk. This is the you that doesn't rely on a bookkeeper to tell you if you're winning or losing, because you know. They're just backing up what you already know. This is you that leads with data, not drama. The dashboard general sees everything, because here's the thing. Control doesn't come from just doing. It comes from knowing. I talked about this in the very first slide. Knowledge is not power. Application of knowledge is power, right? This is a complete mindset shift. And I'm telling you, it's the most powerful one you can make. You go from cook to commander. You go from kind of that gut call to data-driven dominance. You go from reactivity to, precision strikes. And here's the thing, if you don't step into this identity, you will repeat the same cycle. And what's that cycle? Stress, burnout, panic, bank account balance roulette. It's horrible. I hate it, right? And that was my first restaurant. Hashtag, write this down. Restaurants do not fail from lack of passion. They fail from lack of power because you can't fix what you can't see. You can't dominate what you don't track. You can't build freedom when you're a prisoner of your own guesswork. But here's the thing. When you take on the mindset of a dashboard general, everything shifts. You stop chasing numbers. You start commanding them. You stop hoping things get better. You make them better. You stop managing and you start leading. You start getting tactical for a moment. Dashboard generals don't just check numbers once a month. Here's the thing. They live them every single day, every week, every month. They create rhythms of reporting and a ritual for review. Here's the thing. Dashboard generals understand. Your numbers aren't optional. They are oxygen, right? Because here's the thing, what happens when you start anticipating problems before they happen, when you know when to push your team, when to adjust the menu, when to trim the fat, you don't get blindsided anymore. You bulldoze obstacles before they show up. This is what separates the amateurs from the assassins. So if you want to be dangerous in this industry, you must become obsessed with your numbers. Hashtag, write that shit down. Become obsessed with your numbers, because here's the thing, most restaurants don't. All right. And I will tell you right now, from working with 3,000 restaurants over the last 15 years, the restaurants that know the most win the most. Restaurants that know the numbers the most win the most. So again, let me ask you some uncomfortable questions. Are you running your restaurant like a business or more like a glorified food truck with seating? Are you stepping into your true role as a strategic leader, or are you hiding in the kitchen, hiding in the office, hiding behind the bar, avoiding the truth? Are you mastering your metrics, or are you letting your metrics master you? It's time to lead like your restaurant depends on it, because it does. Now, if you've committed to being a dashboard general, now it's time to actually start building our war room. And our war room is going to be a step-by-step process to help us really, really identify what's working, what's not working, how do we make it better. I would tell you, this is like the most powerful thing I do with my clients. We start building these things, and we have a command center that basically has a couple different metrics that we're going to use, and we're going to dial these things in, and we're actually going to use this thing to actually optimize our entire operation. Fair enough? Okay. So building the war room, the 5 command center metrics. Here's the thing I want to tell you. Numbers don't lie. They lead. Write that shit down. Numbers don't lie. They lead. The numbers are beautiful, right? In my very first book, Your Restaurant Sucks, the very first quote in the book is this: the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. It's so true. Every general has a war room. They have a central command. They have a place where maps, movement, and metrics come together to form a crystal clear strategy. Here's the thing. If you're a restaurant owner in today's society, you need one too. Not just a cluttered spreadsheet, or again, that once a month P&L emailed by your accountant who, by the way, probably never eats in your restaurant. I'm talking about a living, breathing dashboard of domination, a cockpit, a radar system, a set of instruments that gives you clarity, confidence, and control. But let's get something straight. Not all numbers are created equal. Some numbers are noise. Some numbers are vanity. Some are just downright useless. And if you track too many numbers, you're going to drown in the data. That's why we're going to focus in on 5 command center metrics. These are, like, I call them the core vitals. The core vitals, like life vitals that you need to track as a dashboard general. And here's the thing. You're going to track these daily. You're going to track them weekly, monthly. And I'm going to break you down each one step by step. Make sure you got your paper out and your pen. This is where the gold starts happening. Number 1, my favorite one, prime cost. Prime cost is the pulse of profitability. If you don't know what prime cost is, it's quite simple. It's your labor costs and food costs basically put together, right? If you do not know this number, you are playing Russian roulette with your restaurant's future. Because if your prime cost needs to be at least below 60%, ideally 55 to 58 for most independent restaurants. If you let it drift above that, especially 65, you're above 65%, you're hemorrhaging. Right now, if you're in a situation where, oh, McDonald's, my food cost, my prime cost is like 90%, don't worry. I've had restaurants that started with us in coaching that have had prime costs of 143%. And then a year later, we got them from 143% down to 53%. The lady makes money hand over fist now, right? The only thing you have to understand is this: your prime cost is just a symptom of what's going on right now. It's not a prediction of the future if you don't change stuff. If you keep doing the same thing you're doing, yes, it is a prediction. Well, that's that definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So if your prime cost sucks and you're not taking new action, your prime cost will continue to suck, right? Kind of think of it like your restaurant's blood pressure. If your prime cost is too high, you're on the verge of a stroke, right? Also, if it's too low, you're in kind of a risk of burning everybody out, including yourself. So here's the question to ask. Do you know your prime cost without calling your bookkeeper? Type in the chat right now, yes or no. Do you know your prime cost without having to call your bookkeeper or pulling up a data? Yes or no? No judgment here. Remember, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to coach you. Right? You should know your prime cost without ever having to call anybody. You should that should be like just tattooed in the back of your head all the time. Are you tracking this weekly, or are you hoping it just fixes itself? And then who on your team owns this number with you? Because you need to have some level or structure of accountability. If I'm the only one that has the accountability piece on this, then I'm responsible for everything. But if I involve the team and get team accountability, which we always work on, then you start getting everyone buying in, and then you also get a better level of commitment. Prime cost is number one. Now, prime cost is always my first one. Why? Because if prime cost is high, I'm going to dig into number 2 and 3. Number 2 is, of course, your labor cost. And labor cost is the hidden assassin. Write this down. Labor is the most emotional line item on your P&L. Why? Because it involves people. But here's the thing I want you to remember. Emotions don't pay the bills. Percentages do. You need to track your labor by department. There's 3 departments you should be tracking for labor. Front of house, service team, back of house, culinary team, and management leadership team. And then you need to adjust staffing to meet sales, not the other way around. There's also benchmarks or parameters we put on each department. Management and leadership team should always be 10%, no more. Right? Your culinary team or back of the house should be anywhere from, depending on your business, depending on what kind of style of service you have, depending on your restaurant. And this is a broad range, 9 to 14% at the most. Okay. My really, really great restaurants run around 9 to 11% for culinary team. And culinary team includes like prep cooks, dishwashers, line cooks, all those things. Anybody who's on a salary position goes into management. So like if a sous chef's on salary and a chef's on salary, right, they all go into the leadership part. Right? And then the front of the house, the service team is usually service team, servers, the bartenders, bussers, a lot of times the hostess too. Now I might put if I have just food runners, I might put them on the culinary side just so I can do that. So I have a little bit of leeway. But again, and the culinary service team should be anywhere from 5 to 7%. Look at your numbers and see where you're at. That's usually the first thing. When someone says like my labor cost is 45%, the next question I ask always stumps them. What's the department breakdown? By 3 departments, by leadership, culinary, and service team, what's the breakdown percentage? And most of them can't tell me. You want to be able to tell me those numbers, right? So what's your current labor percentage? Okay. Here's a good pro tip. Don't use your POS labor data alone because it doesn't include taxes, benefits, or overtime. You want to use a fully burdened labor, what we call all in. So a lot of times people look at their POS system and your POS labor will tell you it's good when you haven't added in your benefits, your taxes, workman's comp, all those other little things that nickel and dime you. You got to make sure you put all in when you're looking at your prime cost number. All right. And here's the thing. Are you scheduling for your ideal labor number? Are you just copying, pasting your schedule from week to week without looking at the sales and looking at projections? You're just kind of winging it. Right. Now, prime cost is high. Again, I'll look at labor costs. The next one I'll look at, of course, I look at your food costs. Your food cost is basically like your menu report card. Food cost tells you two things, and you might not know this. It tells you how well your team executes recipes and actually how smart your menu design really is. It really does. Because here's the thing, you can't fix recipe cost, you can't fix food costs without recipe costing, without tracking waste, and without menu engineering. You just can't. All right. Those are the three things that will fix your food cost: recipe costing, waste tracking, menu engineering. Right. So like if you're running a 33% food cost, you think it's okay because your sales are good, you're lying to yourself. I have a lot of restaurants like that. There's a number that you have to understand. It's called theoretical. When you looked at that 3P framework in the food cost kind of segment, there's two things in there. There's theoretical and actual food cost. Every month, someone will call me and say, Donald, my food cost is 33%. Is that good? I'll say, I don't know. And they want to say, what do you mean you don't know? I'll say, what's your theoretical food cost? And they'll say, I don't know. That's the problem. So if you're running a 33% food cost and your theoretical is 31, it's actually a pretty good food cost because you should be able to run 2% above theoretical. Now, if you're like the average restaurant in the United States, you have a gap between theoretical and actual of 9%. Most restaurants, just understanding that gap between theoretical and actual food costs and then having some tools to close the gap, can easily find 5% in 90 days. So if you're bleeding out money, if you're below 5% profit, just by going in and digging in and understanding that theoretical and actual food cost variance or gap, and then having some tools and coaching to close that gap, easily add 5% to your bottom line in 90 days. I know 100% true. I've done it with hundreds and hundreds and thousands of restaurants. All right. The thing I want you to ask yourself is this. When I'm working on lowering my food costs, the goal is always lower food costs without compromising value and hit that 2% above theoretical. And the question you want to ask yourself, are you basing pricing on real data or vibe? Are your top selling items also your most profitable? When you do menu engineering, it's going to do what we call stratification. Stratification is going to give me some different data points. It's going to tell me what the stars are, the puzzles, the workhorses, and the dogs. Stars are profitable and popular. Puzzles are great because they're profitable, they're just not popular yet. Plow horses are a danger zone because they're very, very popular, but not profitable. And dogs are dogs. No one likes them and they don't make any money. Sadly, 9 times out of 10, the dogs on your menu are things that you like. You just don't want to get rid of. Coming from a chef's point of view, that was my biggest problem. It's like, what? What do you mean it's a dog? That's a great item. I love that thing. That's amazing. That's the most amazing dish on the planet. If no one's buying it, doesn't matter. Right? You got to take your ego out of it. That's the best thing you can do. Take your ego out of your menu design and you'll be so much farther ahead. Now, that's the first 3. Prime cost, labor cost, food cost. Next up, I look at this little kind of monster called daily sales. Now, normally sales is kind of like a vanity metrics, but I'm going to tell you this. Sales are the engine. Because here's the thing, you're not watching the number. It's not about, and I don't want you just to watch the number and say sales are this and this. I want you to look at the sales, the daily sales, and then we're going to take it apart. We're going to track sales by day part. Not just saying, hey, Donald, my sales today, I did 10K today. That's great. What was the busy time? If we broke it down by day part, hour by hour sales, what was that? If I broke it down by servers, who was the most profitable? Who was the most efficient? Who was the most effective? I break it down by category. So I'm looking at my sales reports. I'm looking at what did I sell for beverages? What did I sell for appetizers? What did I sell for entrees? What did I sell for desserts? Most undercapitalized category for all restaurants is dessert sales. Most restaurants only sell 1%. If you look at your POS system, you probably sell 1, maybe 2% in dessert sales. Highly profitable restaurants are 6% or higher in dessert sales. I'm looking for trends. I'm looking for anomalies. I'm looking for patterns that will either make me rich or bleed me dry. Daily sales will tell you if your marketing is working. Daily sales tells me if my team is closing, making recommendations, increasing the guest check average. If my traffic is dying or thriving, I can see that just by my daily sales. Now, don't freak out when your sales drop a little bit because that's just, the market is always up and down. Now, if your sales continually start slowly declining over 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, then we have a different problem. But normally sales up and down doesn't really bother me. I just know it's usually market fluctuations, market corrections. And here's the thing. Does your team know what numbers they need to hit by 5 o'clock? They know where they need to be with sales. They need to know where they need with labor budget. They need to know where they need to be. If your team doesn't know, they're just guessing. And remember, we don't guess. Guessing costs you money, and not in a good way. Costs you a lot of money. And then number 5, of course, guess count. This is the forgotten hero, because sales, sales are sexy. I love sales. Everybody loves sales. But here's the thing. Guess count is smarter. Why? Because a spike in sales can mask a drop in guest, and that's dangerous. Because when you're up in revenue but down in guest count, that means fewer people are spending more. That's not sustainable. That's a warning sign. More guests equals more reach. More reach equals more revenue potential. More guests equals more data. Are you tracking your guest counts daily? Do you know the average ticket per guest? We call it PPA, per person average, or guest check average. If you do not know your per person average, that is one of the things you really want to dig into. All right. It's so huge. I had a client just the other day. I asked her like, what's your monthly sales? She said 80K. I said, where would you like to be in 90 days? I would like to be at 100K. I said, okay, cool. Fair enough. How many guests do you average a month? She gave me the number. And then I said, what's your average your guest check average? She gave me the number. And I said, just doing some real simple math. I said, do you understand that by not even increasing, like getting more guests, if I just had the guests you currently have spend $5 more, you could hit that $100,000 a month without even breaking a sweat, just by training your team to make recommendations and upsell. She was like, oh my God, really? I go, yeah, $5 and you'll hit that $100,000 without having a bunch of new people into place. There are only 4 ways to increase sales. 4, only 4. Number 1, you can get new guests to come to your restaurant. That's marketing. That's what Luke and his team does. They will get new guests to be aware of your brand and get them to come to your restaurant. That's number 1. Number 2, you can get guests that come to your restaurant to come back more often. How do we do that? Loyalty programs, LTOs, email blasts, text message marketing. Again, Luke and his team are great at that. They'll get the people that come to your restaurant to come back more often. Number 3, get guests who come to your restaurant to spend more money. That's guest check average. And 4, you could raise prices. Now, a lot of restaurant owners, when they need to, increase sales, they just want to raise prices. The downside of that is it's not sustainable. You can only raise prices so many times before you do what we call you reposition yourself. You knock yourself out of position in the market, and you reposition your brand as a different price point, which is a dangerous thing to do. The 2 probably hardest things I have to do as far as a consultant is revamp culture, which is hard because culture doesn't want to go gentle into that good night. They want to stay doing their same lazy stuff they do all the time. So culture is hard. It's probably a challenging thing to do as a coach. Another thing that's challenging as a coach is repositioning or rebranding, because people have gotten so diluted. Your brand tries to be everything, or you just threw everything at the wall, hoping something sticks. And now the guest is confused. Hashtag write this down. If your guest is confused, you lose every single time. Okay. And let me give you a bonus metric. This one's a good one too. Contribution margin per plate. If you really want to flex your kind of like general level kind of leadership, calculate what's called contribution margin for every item on your menu. It's not just about food cost. It's about the dollars you keep per dish. What do I mean? All right. A 20% food cost item on a $10 thing gives you $8. A 30% food cost on a $40 steak gives you $28. Which one's better? Okay. Numbers don't lie. When you master those 5 metrics, your war room becomes a weapon. You stop reacting, you start attacking. You don't guess, And here's the thing. Once you know, you grow. So here's your call out. Do you currently have a dashboard that gives you all 5 of these metrics in one place? Yes or no? Are you currently tracking daily, or just hoping that that you have a decent week? When was the last time you made a decision using data and it really actually saved your ass? Because if you're serious about becoming a dashboard general, these numbers become non-negotiable. right? So I'm going to show you exactly what happens when you use this data to make bold moves and how your restaurant can turn around from basically just from being just information into pure dominance. So turning data into domination is our next kind of little topic. From confusion to control, from chaos to clarity. Numbers alone don't create change. Hashtag write that down. The numbers alone don't create change. The numbers tell me, but here's the thing, decisions and actions do. But smart decisions require clarity. And clarity comes from having a dashboard. So let me show you what it looks like when restaurant owners stop guessing and start dominating their metrics that we just talked about. These are real stories from the trenches. Again, 3,000 restaurants over the last 15 years. And I mean, honestly, these were restaurant owners that are a lot like a lot of you. They were flying blind, getting their asses kicked every day, but then they stepped into this mindset, adopted this new identity of being a dashboard general. How does that look? Looks like this. Case number one, I call this the pizza prison break. And I changed the names here, just so you know. So Tony, no, it was in New Jersey. Tony ran a really busy place in New Jersey. Sales were great, 85K a month, but his bank account looked like he was barely making it. And he said to me, Donald, I just don't get it, man. We're packed every weekend. Where's the money going? So we looked at his prime cost. Prime cost, 68.2. Very, very specific. Now, I think it's around 60. No, I don't want about or around. Tell me specifically what it is. Because if you don't know the dynamics, you can't really fix it. 68.2. Boom. That's the leak. His labor was bloated, especially on the slow nights. His food cost was a mess, had no recipe cards. They weren't doing any portion control. The suppliers were changing prices. He was shopping around using 5 different vendors. They were all just playing this, the shell game with him. And they would just keep jacking his prices up without him even noticing. So we built him out a dashboard in 7 days. In that dashboard, we started tracking his prime costs, labor by position. Remember, leadership, culinary, service team. Started tracking his food costs by category. I have a great sheet for that, which tracks your food costs by category. And I started looking at those daily sales. In 60 days, he dropped his prime cost from 68.2 to 57.9. That's $9,000 a month in saved profit without touching sales, just by tightening up the systems. Now, Tony's making real money. All right. And here's the best part. He sleeps at night because now he knows his business. He knows his numbers. Case number 2, the steakhouse surgeon. Vanessa, name changed, had a high-end steakhouse in Chicago. Beautiful place in the Loop, right? Right downtown in the Loop. Gorgeous spot. I mean, gorgeous restaurant. Solid team, killer food. But she was constantly second-guessing her prices. I think our food cost is around 30%, but I'm not sure. All right. Remember, every time you say around, I know you're not tracking it. All right. She was just guessing. So what we did is finally costed everything out. We ran a menu engineering report using real recipe costs, actual sales, and here's what we found. Her best-selling ribeye had a 38% food cost, which was bringing in $26 per plate, but her second best and lesser known item was a filet that had a 32% food cost, but brought in $33 per plate. Data doesn't lie. All right. So what do? We restructured the menu layout. We gave a lot better visual kind of weight and positioning for the filet. We trained the service team to talk about it at the table, and we watched that shift kind of happen. That one change, just by promoting the filet over the ribeye, added $4,500 in additional profit every month. No new guests, no new menu items, just smarter positioning using data. Now, here's the thing. Now, Vanessa, I mean, she's like obsessed with her dashboard, and she basically told me, like, I'm no longer scared of numbers. I freaking love them because now I know the power of knowing my numbers. Case number 3, the taco shop turnaround. And this is actually one of my favorite restaurants in Albuquerque. Miguel had a very, very small little taco place right off Central Avenue. It was a small little hole-in-the-wall place, 1 register, 2 cooks, 0 systems. Like a lot of restaurant owners. Miguel drowning in work, skipping paychecks for himself. ready to sell. And they told me one day, you know, when he first got on the call with me, I'm just ready to, I'm just ready. I don't think I'm meant for this. I just think I need to get out. And then I said, hey, hold on. You got, you know, I've been to his restaurant. So I knew his food was good. His tacos were amazing. I said, hey, listen, before you throw in the towel, why don't you work with me for 90 days? And let's build out some basic stuff, because to get some stuff going. So we built a basic dashboard, daily sales, labor percentage, guest counts. And then what happened? Everything started to change. He realized his Friday night sales were flat, not because people didn't come, but because ticket times were too slow. So people left the line. He had a line out the door, but people left. So we worked through the throughput. So his kitchen flow. We simplified his menu. We added a second register. We created a labor schedule that was more flex with sales, right? And then within 90 days, his sales were up 27%. His average ticket increased $3. His labor stayed flat, but here's the beautiful thing. His profit doubled. He didn't sell his business. He actually rebuilt it. Now he has 3 locations. And here's the thing. It all started with data. So I want you to notice there's a pattern here. When you can see the problem, you can solve the problem. When you track the issue, you can tame it. When you measure the movement, you can multiply results. But you cannot do any of that if you're operating in the dark. So you have to ask yourself some really tough questions. What decisions are you making today based on assumptions, not data? What leaks could you plug if you had clarity on your prime cost? How much profit is just sitting on your plates that's never hitting your bank account? I want you to understand this. Your dashboard is kind of like your secret agent decoder ring. It shows you what's working, what's not working, what's wasting, what's weak. But here's the thing, you have to use it, right? So that's what we're going to talk about next. All right. All right. I'm going to talk about the trap that's keeping you stuck, right? Because here's the thing, data only works if you're honest with it. And what happens with most restaurant owners? They lie to themselves. And there are some lies that you tell yourself, right? I always say that denial in the restaurant business, denial is the real disease. And here's the thing, this is going to sting a little bit. And as your coach, I'm not here to coddle you. I'm here to confront you. I'm here to make you open your eyes, because the real problem isn't your food cost. Real problem isn't your labor. It's not your managers who keep calling out, or the dishwasher who vanishes every Friday. The real problem is you. It's your lies. It's your denial. It's your refusal to face the truth of the numbers have been screaming to you. Let me tell you what I've seen after coaching, again, thousands of restaurant owners over 15 years. The data is never the issue. It's the interpretation of the data. It's the excuses. It's the stories that you tell yourself that justify why you're not winning. So let's break down the greatest hits of all restaurant denials. Ready? I know my numbers. Donald, I know my numbers. Really? Then why did your last P&L shock you? Why does your prime cost bounce like a bad check? Why do you hire that extra server for Saturday brunch without looking at last week's labor percentage? Why? Because you don't know your numbers. You think you know, but here's the thing. Thinking and knowing is not the same. Knowing is proving. Knowing is tracking. Knowing is owning the outcome. I always talk about ownership. In my last book, Savage Restaurant Success, I talk about ownership a lot. Ownership, if you look at the phonetics of ownership, break down the word just the way it sounds. Ownership. That means own your shit. Got to own it, all of it. Another huge lie I get all the time. Donald, you understand, man, the market's tough right now. Hey, it is. It is tough. It's tough for everybody. That's no lie. But why are some restaurants thriving? Why are my clients making 19.8% profit? Why do I have a couple clients that I have one person just hit 32% profitability? Why? I mean, they're growing, they're profiting. What's the difference? They don't use the market as a crutch. They don't use the market as an excuse. They use their dashboard as a shield, and they make moves based on data, not drama. Oh, here's another favorite one I love. Oh, Donald, I trust my team to handle it. Well, leadership isn't outsourcing responsibility. It's ownership of outcomes. You can trust your team, but only when you verify. Hashtag write this down. Always inspect what you expect. What does the data say about their performance? Who's hitting the targets? Are they hitting their food cost goals, their labor goals? Are they hitting their sales goals? Are they hitting their guest check average goals? Are we getting repeat business? Are we getting more? Are people signing up for our loyalty program? Are they improving? I mean, you always trust, but you still track. Otherwise, you're not leading, you're hoping. And hashtag write this down, hope is not a strategy. Here's my favorite one. Oh, Donald, I don't have time to deal with dashboards. So when you tell me you don't have time for dashboards, here's what I really hear. Donald, I don't have time to be profitable. Right? When you tell me I don't have time to deal with dashboards, you're basically saying, Donald, I don't have time to be profitable. I'd rather have you be honest with me and say, I just don't have time to be profitable. I'd rather lose money and go down with this ship. You'd rather put out fires than prevent them. You'd rather grind than grow. You'd rather stay stuck in the kitchen rather than rising into your power. That's why your bank account is starving. That's why, and I hate to say, most restaurant owners are addicted to the chaos because chaos makes you feel needed. But here's the thing about dashboards. Dashboards, they demand growth. They require change. They hold you accountable. And sadly, scares the shit out of most restaurant owners. I will tell you this from, again, years and years of experience. Let me be blunt. If you're not using a dashboard, you are sabotaging your future. Every day without clarity is a day that you're bleeding out time, money, and energy. Every excuse you give is a brick in the prison that you're building for yourself. But guess what? Here's the thing. You built this prison, which also means that you can tear it down. But here's a critical thing. It starts with one decision. Stop lying, start leading. It's not about spreadsheets. It's not about identity. It's about, do you want to be a cook with an LLC, or do you want to be a commander with a vision? Do you want to keep pretending it's going to get better, or do you want to take the wheel and steer your ship through the storm? Because once you stop lying and start tracking, you gain the most powerful weapon in the game. You know what that weapon is? It's called predictability, right? And that's the most powerful thing you can give. Predictability is the name of the game. Because if you don't have a predictable way to keep making money, oh, I'm telling you, it doesn't really matter, right? You have to have a predictable way to make money. So let's talk about the dashboard ritual. This is what you're going to create. Hashtag write this shit down. Rituals build empires. Rituals build empires. We do not rise by motivation. You rise by your rituals. I always tell you this, motivation is a spark, but ritual is the furnace. Discipline buys you freedom. If you want to dominate this industry, not just survive it, you need to turn your dashboard into a daily practice, because here's the thing, dashboards aren't trophies, they are tools. You don't glance at them. You don't check them when you have time. You don't wait for your accountant to tell you, hey man, it was a great month, you're winning. No, you live them. You live in them. It's like a pilot living in the cockpit. Pilot doesn't fly the plane from the back of the airplane. A general lives in the war room. Sniper lives in the scope. Dashboards show you the battlefield. But here's the thing, only if you commit to a ritual. So let's build your ritual. Daily dashboard ritual. Every day, your purpose for the daily dashboard ritual is this. You want to have tactical control. You want to stop small problems from becoming big ones. What do I track daily? Sales by shift, labor percent by department, guest count, average check, top 5 menu item sales, voids, discounts, and comps. These are things I track on a daily basis, right? And I ask myself, hey, did we hit our sales targets today? Or hit our sales goal? Did labor stay in line with our forecast? Who overperformed? Who underperformed? Who needs coaching? Or any spikes or dips? Why? And then what's the one thing we can adjust for tomorrow? Here's a good pro tip. This only should take you 15 minutes. I know everyone says, Donald, this is going to be crazy. No, once you get the routine down, it takes you 15-minute max. If it takes you longer, your dashboard is just too complicated. You just want to simplify it. After the daily dashboard, you want to look at your weekly dashboard rituals. Weekly is more about strategic adjustments. It's the course corrections that you make before you drift into the danger zone. What do I track weekly? Prime cost. Weekly sales by categories like appetizers, desserts, beverages. Inventory levels and variance, which is very, very powerful. Right? And you should be doing inventory weekly. If you want to make money, you should be doing inventory weekly. Top and bottom line performing employees. I'm always tracking who's my top salespeople, who's not. Right? And then, of course, guest feedback, themes from reviews, online comments. And the questions I'm asking myself is this: are we trending towards our monthly targets? Are we overstaffing certain shifts? Are our most profitable items being pushed, recommended by the team? What trends are emerging in the numbers or guest feedback? And what changes do we need to make this week to improve next week? Here's a pro tip. When you do your weekly dashboard ritual, do it the same day. I like Monday myself or Sunday night when it's quiet. What you want to call it is your leadership lock-in. And you have every week, same day, and you always do your weekly dashboard ritual. I call it the leadership lock-in. It's powerful. And then monthly dashboard, again, this is about big picture thinking. It's about planning, forecasting, real kind of like that kind of strategic growth. What do I review on my monthly one? Month over month sales and profit. Prime cost trend lines. Where's my prime cost? Am I trending up, trending down, staying steady? My contribution margins by menu item. What menu items are contributing to most of the bottom line to the bank account? My cash flow and net profit. These are things you need to track all the time. My marketing ROIs. Luke's team will give you a step-by-step performance, almost like a report, and what's working, what's not working, how we make it better. Employee performance trends. Guest frequency and return rates. And the question you want to ask yourself is, what did we win this month? What decisions paid off? What did we tolerate that hurts us? Hashtag write this down. Your restaurant is a reflection of what you tolerate. Plain and simple. Right? Your restaurant is a reflection of what you tolerate. What do we need to stop, start, and double down on next month? Where are we bleeding and how do we cauterize it? Here's a good pro tip. This is kind of like your board meeting for your team. Every month you should have this kind of board meeting. Even if you're a team of one, that means go grab a cup of coffee, go to a local coffee place, pull out your monthly dashboard and review it. And if you have a leadership team, bring your leadership team, but go deep, be honest, own the numbers. I can tell you right now, the power of a ritual is so amazing. Most restaurant owners walk around like, I think we did okay this week. I feel like we're down a little bit. Hey, we had a couple good nights, so maybe we're back on track. That's not leadership. That's luck chasing. Ritual kills chaos. Ritual kills emotion. Ritual kills that voice in your head saying that we're fine when you're on the edge of a cliff. And here's the best part. Rituals make you dangerous. They allow you to anticipate problems before they become emergencies. They let you build confidence in your team. They give you consistency to grow, scale, and eventually step back without fear. But here's the thing, only if you commit. So let me ask you a question. Is your current ritual solid? Are you currently reviewing your numbers? Are your reviews driven by data or drama? Right? Because I'm telling you, once your ritual is locked in, your restaurant starts to run itself, not by accident, but by design. And that brings us to this next kind of thing. You got to choose systems over chaos, because one of them is leading your business right now, and we're going to figure out which one it is. So here's your mission brief. Right? It's not about the dashboard, it's about domination. So if you made it through this far, and I appreciate everyone being here this long, and we're going a little bit over, but hang in there. I'm wrapping it up pretty fast. If you made it this far, I know you made it through the fog. You looked in the mirror, you know the harsh truth, you know where you're sitting at. We talked about the 5 command center metrics. You see what's possible in real-time control. You face the demons of resistance. You see how clarity, culture, and cadence combine to make a system that scales. Now's the thing, you must do something with it. Because the greatest threat to your restaurant is not ignorance, it's inaction. Most people will listen to this webinar, they get all fired up, they're nodding their head, yeah, that's great. And they go right back into the chaos. They go right back into firefighting. You go right back into emotional guessing, right back into broken systems, sloppy reporting, and hoping they can make payroll on Friday. It's not that they don't care. It's this, they don't commit. So let's be crystal clear in this. There is no next level without action. Right? You have been called to do more. If you're on this webinar, you already know you've been called to run your restaurant like a weapon. You've been called to lead your team like a general, to track your business like a scientist, to build systems like a savage, to forecast your future like a visionary. So what does that look like? Build or upgrade your dashboard. You've seen the 5 core metrics. If you don't have a system to have one, build one right now. Start with a spreadsheet if you must. Get someone to help you on your team. Use Google Data Studio, Restaurant 365, Margins Edge. Get coaching if you don't even know where to start. Excuses are the currency of chaos. Hashtag write that down. Excuses are the currency of chaos. Action is the first deposit in domination. Right? You got to take action. Nothing changes until you take action. Step number 2, create a ritual, right? Don't wait until the first of the month to start looking at your numbers. Build your daily ritual a day and make it a habit. Remember, 15 minutes is all you need. Weekly war room check-ins, monthly check-ins with your leadership team. Consistency is your greatest weapon. Most restaurant owners just dabble in the numbers. You want to master them. And then step 3, train your team. Please, please, please train your team to play the game. You want to bring your team into the dashboard and make sure they understand. Assign metrics, involve them in reviews, let them see the numbers, how they affect the scores. Teach the team how to see the scoreboard and they'll play the game differently. It's not just about your freedom, it's about their growth, because you cannot scale your restaurant if it depends on you doing everything by yourself. Step 4, you have to audit for resistance. Look for where you're still hiding behind clarity. What numbers are you afraid to face? What systems are you still winging? What conversations are you avoiding because it exposes weakness? Here's the thing, remember, the goal isn't not perfection, it's honesty. The more you eliminate resistance, the faster you dominate. Step 5, forecast, anticipate, and dominate. Once your dashboard is up and running, start looking forward. What marketing moves can you make next month based on what's going on now? What dishes can you 86 or reprice based on your new margin reports? What labor needs to be shifted based on sales? Best restaurant owners don't wait for the storms. They build a freaking shelter in advance. That's who you are becoming. Wrapping it up. This isn't a dashboard. It is a declaration. It's your way of saying, I'm done being held hostage by the cash. I'm done bleeding money in the dark. I'm done working 70 hours a week just to scrape by. You didn't open a restaurant to suffer. You opened it to build something, to create freedom, to create a legacy, to do work that freaking matters. Dashboards are not optional. They are oxygen. So go and build your dashboard. Run your rituals, lead your team, forecast your future, build your dashboard of domination because your future is waiting. Any questions real quick before we wrap it up for the day? I went a couple minutes over. I apologize. I hope everybody's okay. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff.
Donald, very, very good. Very, very good. Thank you so much. Guys, next week, we are demoing and explaining more details about the coaching program. So if you guys are interested, if you haven't joined the coaching program already, and you're interested in getting a one-on-one profit coach to help you with basically everything, food costs, margins, strategies around pricing, menu design, staffing, hiring, talent, all of the above. We're going to be talking in depth about that next Wednesday. So if you're interested in joining that, if you want help with your margins, please join that call next week, Wednesday, same day, same time.
I would say same bat channel, same bat time.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate everyone show up today, everyone taking notes. It's been fun. I always love doing these webinars. So if you need anything in the...
Yeah, you're on a roll today. I like it.
In the Slack channel, I'm also in the Slack channel too. So if you have a question for me, you always reach out to me on the Slack channel. Everyone have a fantastic day. Thanks, Luke. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Donald. We'll see you.
All right, ciao.
Bye.